Magic, in all its forms, has always held a mysterious power over the hearts of those who hear its tales. But there's a different kind of magic that lurks in the shadows, one that's whispered about in hushed tones. Forbidden spells. They call to the darkest parts of the soul, offering promises of power, revenge, and desires fulfilled. These spells aren't just about bending the world to one's will, they twist it, bend it, and break it in ways that were never meant to be. Witches who dare to wield this kind of magic walk a razor-thin line between greatness and utter destruction, often at a terrible cost. Throughout the ages, forbidden spells have been a source of both fascination and fear. It's not just the act of casting these spells, but the allure that draws witches to them, the thrill of the forbidden, the rush of power, the dangerous temptation to reach for something just out of grasp. These spells aren't just tools, they're promises, dangerous and seductive, whispering in the ears of those desperate enough to listen. Some witches seek them out for vengeance, others for love, and some for the simple, terrifying urge to see what lies beyond the veil of the ordinary. The world of forbidden magic is not a place for the faint-hearted. There's a chill in the air when a forbidden spell is cast, as if the very universe recoils from the act. Shadows grow darker, the light dims, and even the bravest souls feel a shiver run down their spine. The magic wraps itself around the caster like a cold, unyielding chain, a constant reminder of the price that must be paid. In myths, those who wield forbidden magic often find themselves isolated, feared, and sometimes hunted. They are not heroes in shining armor, they are the dark figures that linger in the corners of the story, their power a cautionary tale of the cost of wanting too much. Forbidden spells often require more than simple words and gestures, they demand sacrifice. It could be the caster's blood, a loved one's trust, or even a piece of their own soul. This is the price of playing with fire that no one is meant to touch. Witches who dare to perform these spells know that what they give can never be taken back. The forbidden is not just dangerous because of its effects on the world, but because of the way it changes the caster. It digs deep, pulling at the very essence of who they are, twisting their desires into something unrecognizable. There are tales of witches who, driven by grief or rage, sought out forbidden magic as a last resort. One such story tells of a woman who lost her child to the cold clutches of death. Blinded by her pain, she found a spell that promised to bring her child back. She paid the price with her own life force, thinking it a fair trade. But when the child returned, he was not the sweet boy she remembered. His eyes were cold, his smile twisted, her son in form, but not in spirit. The witch had broken the natural order, and in doing so, she had not only lost her child once, but now she faced a monstrous reminder of her grief every day. Forbidden magic gave her what she wanted, but not in the way she had hoped. The magic had a mind of its own, one that cared nothing for her heartache. Witches who wield these spells are often painted as villains, but the truth is more complex. They are not just evil beings seeking chaos, many are simply souls who were pushed too far, too fast. They are mothers, lovers, warriors, people who reached for forbidden magic because it was their only hope, their last desperate grasp at something they couldn't bear to lose. But the magic doesn't care about reasons or justifications. It only knows the rules that have been broken and the price that must be paid. The consequences of forbidden magic ripple far beyond the caster. Villages burn, kingdoms fall, and the innocent often pay the price for a witch's forbidden spell. These spells are not precise, they are wild, untamed forces that lash out unpredictably. A love spell meant to bind can turn into a curse of obsession that drives its target mad. A spell for wealth can rot the heart with greed. And a spell for revenge can spiral into a cycle of violence that never ends. Those who witness these spells are forever changed, their lives marked by the unnatural. But it's not just fear that keeps people talking about forbidden spells. It's the undeniable pull of what could be. The thought that maybe, just maybe, with the right words and the right will, one could change the world. It's a tantalizing thought, that with a whisper and a gesture, you could have everything you've ever wanted. That's the true danger of forbidden spells, not just their power, but their promise. They tell you that you don't have to accept what the world has given you. You can make your own rules, write your own destiny, even if it costs everything. Forbidden spells also have a strange kind of beauty to them, a haunting allure that draws people in even as they fear it. It's the kind of beauty that makes your heart race and your skin prickle. It's a moth drawn to a flame, knowing it will burn but unable to turn away. Witches who wield forbidden spells are often trapped in this dance, caught between the desire for power and the knowledge of its cost. They stand at the edge of the abyss, staring into the unknown, knowing that one step further means no return. And yet, they step forward. For some, it's the only choice left. For others, it's a compulsion, a need that gnaws at them until they give in. Forbidden spells don't just break the rules, they shatter the barriers between what is and what could be. They take what is sacred and twist it into something new, something terrifying. They are the ultimate test of a witch's strength, not just of magic, but of will, of heart, and of soul. In the end, forbidden spells and the witches who cast them serve as a reminder of the thin line between light and darkness. They show us the lengths to which a heart can be pushed and the consequences of crossing lines that should never be crossed. They are stories of power, of pain, and of the haunting allure of the forbidden. The kind of magic that doesn't just change the world, it changes the very fabric of the soul. And for those who dare to wield it, there is no going back. On a lonely island surrounded by the restless waves of the sea, Circe lived, a figure of haunting beauty and dangerous power. The daughter of the sun god Helios and the ocean nymph Perse, Circe was no ordinary sorceress. She had a gift, a mastery over transformative magic that set her apart from gods and mortals alike. But with great power came isolation. Her talents were too strange, too frightening, even for the gods who knew no fear. She was exiled to the island of Aiaia, left to her own devices with nothing but her magic and the wild animals that roamed the woods around her. It was there that she became the enchantress of Aiaia, feared and whispered about by sailors and wanderers alike. Circe's magic was unlike any other. She could bend reality with just a whisper, turning men into beasts with a flick of her hand. Her magic thrived on transformation, changing one thing into another, forever altering the nature of whatever she touched. She didn't just perform spells, she lived them, breathed them, made them a part of her very essence. Her spells were forbidden not because they broke the rules of magic, but because they defied the very order of existence. In Circe's world, nothing was as it seemed, and everything could be undone or remade at her whim. The most infamous of her spells was the one that turned men into animals. It wasn't just a trick or a cruel jest, it was a statement of her power and her contempt for those who underestimated her. Circe had seen the worst of men, their greed, their violence, their endless thirst for conquest. To her, turning them into pigs or wolves was not just a punishment but a reflection of the true nature she saw within them. When Odysseus and his men washed ashore on Aiaia, weary from their long travels, they had no idea what awaited them. They saw only a welcoming home, warm food, and a kind smile. But beneath Circe's charming exterior was a mind always calculating, always ready to test the hearts of those who dared to step onto her island. With a feast laid out before them, Odysseus's men fell into Circe's trap without hesitation. They ate and drank, laughing and boasting, unaware that each bite brought them closer to their fate. Circe watched, her eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and disdain. Then, with a wave of her hand, the men felt their bodies twist and contort. The laughter turned to cries as hands became hooves, faces stretched into snouts, and human voices were replaced with the panicked grunts of pigs. The transformation was swift and brutal, leaving no trace of the men they once were. They were trapped, unable to recognize each other or even themselves, doomed to roam as beasts until Circe willed it otherwise. Odysseus, wiser and more cautious than his men, managed to resist Circe's initial charms. With the help of Hermes, who provided him with a protective herb called moly, he confronted Circe not as prey, but as an equal. They struck a deal, a fragile truce between two powerful beings who recognized in each other the capacity for great strength and great harm. Odysseus demanded the return of his men, and Circe, perhaps intrigued by his boldness, complied. One by one, she restored them, her magic reversing the transformation with the same ease with which it had begun. But the men who stood before Odysseus were not the same. They had felt the terror of losing themselves, of being reduced to something less than human, and that fear lingered long after their forms were restored. Circe's power to transform was not just about changing shapes, it was about revealing truths. In her presence, no one could hide from what they truly were, not even Circe herself. For all her power, she was deeply alone, isolated by the very magic that defined her. She could have had anything, a palace, servants, the adoration of mortals, but she chose solitude. It was as if she knew that her power came at a price, one that kept her apart from the world she could so easily manipulate. Circe's spells were forbidden not just because of their effects, but because they touched on the raw, untamed parts of existence that most dared not confront. Her island was a place of strange beauty, filled with creatures that had once been human, each living out their days in a form they could not escape. For Circe, these transformations were a way to control, to protect herself from the endless cycle of betrayal and disappointment she had faced in the world of gods and mortals. But there was also a sadness to it, a sense that each spell cast was a reminder of her own inability to connect with those around her. She could change them, mold them, make them bend to her will, but she could not make them understand her. Circe's power was as much a curse as it was a gift. She was feared for what she could do, but also pitted for what she could never have, a life free of the weight of her own magic. Those who came to Aiaia seeking favor or refuge found neither. Instead, they found themselves at the mercy of a woman who could see through their lies and weaknesses. To Circe, every human was an open book, and every spell she cast was a page torn out and rewritten to her liking. Yet, for all the terror Circe inspired, there was also a quiet grace to her magic. She didn't rage or boast, she simply existed, powerful and unyielding. Her transformations were not always about punishment. Sometimes, they were acts of mercy, saving those who could not save themselves. In the stillness of Aiaia's forests, Circe would walk among the beasts she had created, offering them the only kind of companionship she could give. There was a melancholy in her eyes, a recognition that in making these creatures, she had also made herself a part of them. She was their creator, their protector, and, in some ways, their prisoner. Circe's story is one of contradictions, a powerful witch who could reshape the world but could never truly find her place in it. Her forbidden spells were her way of coping, of asserting control in a universe that had cast her aside. They were her armor, her shield against the cruelty of gods and the folly of men. And in the end, Circe stood alone on her island, a figure of both fear and fascination, forever bound to the magic that both defined and confined her. The enchantress of Aiaia, with her forbidden spells and her unbreakable spirit, remains a haunting reminder of the price of power and the unending search for belonging in a world that is always just out of reach. Medea's story begins with love, but it's not the kind of love that fills the heart with warmth. Hers is a tale of a love so fierce, so consuming, that it burns everything it touches. She was the daughter of King Aeetes of Colchis, a powerful sorceress with magic flowing through her veins. When Jason arrived on her shores, seeking the golden fleece, Medea fell for him. It wasn't a gentle fall, but a reckless plunge that sent her spiraling into the dangerous waters of forbidden spells and dark promises. She helped him with her magic, risking everything for a man she barely knew, driven by a love that defied all logic. Medea's magic was potent, rooted in ancient secrets that even the gods dared not speak of lightly. She wielded spells of protection and transformation, guiding Jason through every trial with a steady hand and an unshakable resolve. She bewitched serpents, bent rivers to her will, and brought flames to life with a mere whisper. But her most dangerous magic was not what she did for Jason, but what she was willing to do in his name. She betrayed her own family, sacrificing everything she held dear, all for the promise of a future with Jason. When she helped him steal the golden fleece, it was more than a mere act of love, it was a pact, a binding spell of trust that could never be undone. But as with all magic, there was a price. Jason promised Medea the world, swearing by the gods that he would stay by her side forever. Together, they fled to Greece, leaving behind a trail of betrayal and blood. Medea thought she had found her place, her purpose, in the arms of the man she had given everything for. But Jason's love was fickle, his promises as empty as the cold winds that swept through the ancient cities. When Jason turned his back on Medea, choosing a new bride and a new life, he tore apart the very fabric of her being. Medea, the powerful sorceress who had defied kings and gods, was left with nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal. This was when Medea's magic took a darker turn. It wasn't about protection or guidance anymore, it was about vengeance. Her heart, once filled with love, now overflowed with a cold fury that consumed her every thought. She would not be cast aside like a forgotten spell. Medea's anger was not the kind that faded with time. It festered, growing sharper with each passing day, until it could no longer be contained. She knew that Jason had to pay, not just for what he did to her, but for every lie, every broken promise. Medea's forbidden spells were born from this place of deep hurt and betrayal. She summoned dark forces, pulling on the threads of magic that should never have been touched. Deception was her first weapon. With her spells, she wove illusions that twisted the truth, turning the eyes of those around her away from what she was planning. Her magic made lies feel like truths, her words like honey that masked the bitterness beneath. She manipulated everyone, friends, foes, and even Jason himself, setting the stage for the perfect act of revenge. Her spells of manipulation were not just about trickery, they were acts of control, designed to bend others to her will. When Jason's new bride received a beautiful, enchanted gown from Medea, she thought it a generous gift. But the dress was soaked in poison, crafted with a spell that burned hotter than the sun. As soon as the fabric touched her skin, it erupted in flames that no water could quench. The bride's screams filled the palace, her agony echoing through the halls as the flames consumed her. Medea watched, her heart as cold as the fire was hot, as her rival perished in a blaze of pain and betrayal. But Medea's vengeance didn't stop there. Jason had not only taken her heart, he had given her sons, and it was through them that her pain cut the deepest. In a final, unthinkable act, Medea turned her magic against her own children. She believed that in taking their lives, she would forever wound Jason, striking at the one place he could never defend, his love for his sons. It was a spell of the darkest kind, one that tore her soul apart even as she cast it. The air grew thick with sorrow, each breath heavy with the weight of the unforgivable. Medea's hands, once gentle and warm, became instruments of death, severing the last ties that bound her to the life she once knew. Medea's story is not just one of magic, it's one of heartbreak and the lengths to which a soul can be pushed when betrayed by the one they trusted most. Her spells of deception, murder, and manipulation were not born from a place of wickedness, but from the ruins of a love that was supposed to be eternal. She used her magic to rewrite the story she had been forced into, refusing to play the role of the abandoned lover. Instead, she became the architect of her own fate, her spells an extension of the rage and sorrow that threatened to consume her. There is a chilling beauty in Medea's defiance, a haunting strength in the way she refused to be broken by the man who had taken everything from her. Her magic was forbidden not just because of its darkness, but because it was driven by emotions too raw, too real for the world to contain. Medea's spells were her way of taking back control, of refusing to let Jason's betrayal be the end of her story. She didn't ask for forgiveness, nor did she seek redemption. She was Medea, the betrayed sorceress, and her magic was the only thing she had left to wield. Even as she stood amidst the ashes of her own making, there was no remorse in Medea's eyes. She had faced the ultimate pain, had been stripped of everything she held dear, and still, she stood tall. Her magic, though forbidden, was a testament to her unbreakable will. Medea's spells may have been born from darkness, but they also spoke of a power that could not be silenced, a heart that could not be tamed. In the end, Medea's story is not just a cautionary tale of forbidden magic, it's a haunting reminder of the lengths one can go when the world turns its back on them, and all that remains is the cold, unyielding embrace of vengeance. In the shadows of Camelot's towering walls, there was a name whispered with both fear and fascination, Morgan Le Fay. She wasn't just a figure in the background, she was the storm that lingered on the edges of Arthurian legend, always waiting to strike. Morgan Le Fay was more than a mere sorceress, she was the embodiment of power and mystery, her presence a constant threat to the knights and rulers who dared to stand in her way. Her magic was ancient, whispered to her by the old gods and the restless spirits of the earth, and with each spell she cast, she wove herself deeper into the very fabric of Camelot's fate. From the beginning, Morgan was not just another character in the grand tapestry of Arthurian legend, she was the darkness that balanced the light. She wasn't born a villain, her path was shaped by the wounds of betrayal and the hunger for recognition that was denied to her time and time again. Morgan Le Fay, the half-sister of King Arthur, was once just a girl in a world that revered knights and kings but often dismissed the powerful women who stood behind them. But Morgan was not one to be silenced or pushed aside. Her magic, though branded forbidden, was her voice, her rebellion against a world that refused to see her worth. Morgan's rivalry with Merlin, the legendary wizard of Camelot, was not born out of mere spite. Merlin, with his prophecies and counsel, held a place of honor that Morgan coveted, but more than that, she despised the way he dismissed her powers. Merlin saw Morgan's potential, yet he warned Arthur of the dangers she posed, painting her as a threat rather than an ally. This fueled a fire in Morgan, one that could not be extinguished. She knew her magic could rival Merlin's, if not surpass it. She would not be a footnote in his stories, she would be the one to write her own destiny, even if it meant tearing down everything Arthur held dear. Morgan's spells were not the harmless enchantments of fairy tales, they were acts of defiance, each one a step closer to the vengeance she sought. Her magic was raw and untamed, drawn from the wild forces of nature and the ancient wisdom of the Fae. She could shapeshift at will, becoming a bird, a serpent, or even a shadow, slipping into places where no one could follow. With a wave of her hand, she could turn the tide of battles, summoning winds that ripped through armies and mists that cloaked her enemies in confusion. Her magic was a weapon, as sharp and unforgiving as any blade, and she wielded it with a precision that struck fear into the hearts of even the bravest knights. Morgan's most infamous spell was one of transformation, but not of the body, it was of the mind. She crafted illusions that preyed on the fears and desires of those she wished to manipulate. With just a glance, she could make a man see his deepest longing, drawing him into a trap from which there was no escape. Many a knight found himself ensnared in Morgan's web, their minds clouded by dreams that twisted into nightmares. And it wasn't just knights who fell prey to her cunning, even Arthur himself was not immune to Morgan's influence. She sent him dreams of doom and despair, planting seeds of doubt that grew like weeds in his heart. She knew that to truly defeat Arthur, she had to do more than just strike at his body, she had to break his spirit. But Morgan's greatest conflict was not with Arthur, it was with herself. Torn between her desire for power and the remnants of the love she once held for her brother, Morgan's actions were driven by a complicated mix of revenge and sorrow. She hated Arthur for the way he embodied all that she was denied, but she couldn't fully sever the ties that bound them. In her darkest moments, when her spells backfired or her plans fell apart, there was a flicker of something softer in her eyes, a glimpse of the woman she might have been had the world not turned its back on her. But these moments were fleeting, overshadowed by the burning need to prove herself, to show that she was more than just the forgotten sister of a great king. Morgan's attempts to undermine Camelot were relentless. She created powerful potions and enchanted items that caused discord among Arthur's knights. She gifted Sir Accolon with a sword meant to kill Arthur, setting in motion a deadly confrontation that nearly saw her plans come to fruition. She wasn't content to simply watch from the sidelines, she wanted to be the architect of Camelot's downfall, to see the great kingdom crumble under the weight of her spells. Yet, time and again, her efforts were thwarted, not by magic, but by the unbreakable bonds of loyalty and love that held Arthur's court together. It was this that Morgan could never truly grasp, the power of unity, of standing together even in the face of overwhelming odds. Morgan Le Fay's legacy is one of contradictions, a powerful sorceress whose spells could change the course of history, yet whose heart was forever caught in a battle between love and hate. She was the shadow to Arthur's light, the one who dared to question the very foundations of his rule. Her forbidden spells were not just acts of rebellion, they were cries for recognition, for a place in a world that never truly saw her. And though she is often cast as the villain in the tales of Camelot, there is something undeniably human about her struggle. Morgan Le Fay was not just the dark sorceress of Arthurian legend, she was a woman who refused to be defined by anyone but herself, wielding her forbidden magic as both a shield and a sword in her quest to be seen, heard, and remembered. In the heart of the dark, ancient forests of Slavic folklore, there exists a figure that both terrifies and fascinates anyone who dares to speak her name, Baba Yaga. She is not just a witch, she is the witch of all witches, a creature of mystery and magic who straddles the line between helper and destroyer. Baba Yaga lives in a world where the trees whisper secrets and the wind carries the cries of those who have crossed her. Her home, a hut that stands on chicken legs, moves restlessly through the forest, turning and shifting with a mind of its own, like a living thing that responds only to her will. There is no path that leads to Baba Yaga, she finds you, not the other way around. And when she does, you never know if you'll leave her presence whole or shattered. Baba Yaga is not bound by the rules of good or evil. She is as unpredictable as the forest itself, her magic woven from the roots and bones of the earth, wild and untamed. One moment, she might offer guidance, her bony fingers pointing the way to hidden treasures or lost loved ones. But the next, those same fingers might be casting a spell that turns life into a nightmare. Baba Yaga is a force of nature, ancient and all-seeing, with eyes that glow like embers in the night and a voice that can cut through the thickest fog. To encounter her is to face a being who answers to no one, whose actions are driven by whims that no mortal can predict. Her spells are as varied as her moods. Baba Yaga can brew potions that heal wounds no medicine can touch, but she can also curse a person so profoundly that they are haunted forever by shadows and whispers that only they can hear. She knows the secrets of life and death, of how to bind spirits and command the elements. She can summon storms with a flick of her wrist, the sky darkening as lightning dances to her silent tune. Her magic is not something to be begged for lightly. It always comes with a price, and she takes what she's owed, whether it's in the form of a lock of hair, a drop of blood, or something far more precious. Baba Yaga's most dangerous spells often involve transformation. She has the power to change the shape of those who cross her path, turning the boldest warriors into meek animals or the most cunning tricksters into stone. She once took a young man who boasted of his strength and turned him into a wolf, cursed to roam the forest forever, never finding rest, always hunted. For Baba Yaga, these transformations are not mere punishments, they are lessons. She sees the flaws in humanity, pride, greed, foolishness, and uses her magic to expose them, turning people inside out until what they are on the outside matches the darkness within. Yet, Baba Yaga is not always cruel. There are times when she has been a guide, her cryptic words leading the lost back to safety. She is not heartless, she simply sees the world in a way that is different from everyone else. She understands that sometimes, the harshest lesson is the most necessary. When she gives her aid, it is often hidden beneath riddles and tasks that seem impossible. A young girl might come to her, desperate for help, and Baba Yaga might set her to impossible chores, sweeping the forest floor or sorting grains of sand from seeds. But these challenges are never without purpose. Those who face Baba Yaga with courage and honesty often find that the witch's help, though difficult, is exactly what they needed. Baba Yaga's role as both helper and hindrance makes her a figure that is both feared and respected. She embodies the dual nature of magic itself, the power to heal and the power to harm, the gift of knowledge and the weight of its consequences. She is a guardian of the boundaries between worlds, straddling the line between the living and the dead, the mortal and the magical. Her hut, which spins and dances on its chicken legs, is said to be a portal, a gateway to places unseen, where the rules of the everyday world do not apply. Those who are brave, or foolish, enough to enter her domain find themselves at the mercy of a being who can see straight into their souls. For all her power, Baba Yaga is a lonely figure. She is surrounded by the spirits of the forest, by creatures that answer to her call, but she walks a solitary path. Her magic isolates her, setting her apart from those who might otherwise be allies or friends. The few who have dared to get close to her often speak of a sadness that lingers beneath her sharp words and stern gaze, as if she carries the weight of all the lives she has touched, for better or worse. Yet, Baba Yaga never falters. She continues to move through her forest, her hut creaking and groaning with every step, her spells weaving through the air like threads of fate. There is a legend that speaks of a time when Baba Yaga was challenged by a sorcerer who sought to steal her magic. He was powerful, with spells that could shatter mountains and summon dragons. But Baba Yaga, with her timeless wisdom and her bond to the very bones of the earth, did not flinch. She spoke a single word, one that echoed through the forest like the tolling of a bell, and the sorcerer was turned to ash. It was a reminder to all who heard the tale that Baba Yaga's magic is not to be taken lightly, that her power is rooted in something far deeper than mere spells. It is tied to the very essence of the world itself. To some, Baba Yaga is a monster, a witch to be feared and avoided. To others, she is a wise woman, a guardian who tests those who seek her out, ensuring that they are worthy of the magic they desire. She is as much a part of the forest as the trees and the rivers, as eternal as the stars that shine down through the canopy. Baba Yaga's magic is not just about the spells she casts, it is about the choices she forces others to make, the paths she sets them on, and the truths she makes them face. She is the witch of the wilderness, and her power is a reminder that magic, like nature, is both beautiful and terrifying, capable of great kindness and great cruelty, and always, always, unpredictable. Under the veil of the darkest night, when the moon hangs low and full, casting its silver light across the world, a figure stands at the crossroads, Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. She is not a mere whisper of myth, she is the shadow that lingers in the corner of your eye, the chill that runs down your spine when you feel like you're being watched in the dead of night. Hecate, with her torches and her pack of hounds, roams the spaces where light and dark meet, where the seen and unseen touch. She is the guardian of the unknown, the keeper of magic that most can only dream of or dread. Hecate's connection to the moon is more than just a symbol, it is the source of her power, the way she reaches into the hearts of those who call on her. Under the moon's glow, she is at her most powerful, her spells weaving through the night like threads of silver. The moonlight bends to her will, and under its light, she sees everything, the past, the future, the hidden fears and unspoken wishes of those who stand before her. Her presence is both comfort and terror, a reminder that magic is not just in the hands of mortals but in the very fabric of the world itself, guided by those like Hecate who know how to command it. Hecate's magic is not confined by boundaries. She is known as the goddess of boundaries, of the places in between. She stands at the edges of the known world, where every path diverges, offering choices that can change lives forever. Her influence is everywhere, in the whispers of the wind that seem to carry secrets, and the shadows that dance at the corners of your vision. Witches call to her when they are lost, when they seek guidance in their spells, and she answers with a flicker of her torch, lighting the way through the darkness. But her guidance is not free of peril. Hecate's paths are often lined with thorns, each step a test of will and courage. Forbidden spells are her specialty, the kind that others dare not speak of, let alone practice. Hecate holds the keys to the secrets of necromancy, the art of speaking with the dead. In her hands, the veil between life and death is thin, and with her magic, she can summon spirits from beyond, calling them back to the world of the living. But these spells are not without cost. The dead do not like to be disturbed, and Hecate's power over them is a reminder that some knowledge is best left untouched. Those who seek her help in these matters must be prepared to face the consequences, for the spirits she calls forth are not always friendly, and they do not always go back quietly. Hecate's influence over witches is unmatched. She is not just a goddess to them, she is a mentor, a guide, and a protector. Witches turn to Hecate for strength, for wisdom, for the courage to cast the spells that others fear. Her presence in their rituals is like a steady hand on the shoulder, a silent promise that they are not alone, that the magic they wield is not just their own but part of a greater power. Hecate's spells are woven into the very essence of witchcraft, her touch felt in every incantation and every potion brewed under the cover of night. She is the force behind the magic, the voice that speaks in the silence, urging witches to trust in their power and push beyond the boundaries of what is known. But Hecate's magic is not just for witches, it is for anyone who stands at a crossroads, unsure of which way to turn. She appears to those who are lost, who seek answers that seem just out of reach. With her torches, she lights the way, but she does not tell you which path to take. Hecate believes in choice and the power of decision. She gives you the tools, the glimpses of what might be, but the rest is up to you. This is her greatest lesson, that true power lies not just in magic, but in the choices you make and the paths you walk. In the myths, Hecate is often seen aiding those in desperate need. She helped Demeter in her search for Persephone, guiding her through the darkness with her torches held high. She stands by those who others have forsaken, offering her wisdom and her magic to those brave enough to ask. But she is also unyielding and fierce, ready to unleash her wrath on those who disrespect the forces she controls. Hecate does not take betrayal lightly, and her vengeance is swift and severe, her spells binding and unbreakable. She is a protector of those who honor her, but a fearsome enemy to those who dare to cross her. Hecate's spells can change fate itself. She can untangle the threads of destiny, shifting the course of lives with just a word. Her magic reaches beyond the present, touching past and future, seeing all possibilities at once. With her knowledge, she can twist the outcomes, bending reality to fit the desires of those who seek her favor. But Hecate's spells are not gifts, they are agreements, and she expects a price in return. Those who seek to alter their fate must be willing to pay, whether it is in sacrifices, in oaths, or in something far more personal. She is often depicted with three faces, each one looking in a different direction, past, present, and future. This is not just a reflection of her power but of her nature. Hecate sees all sides of every story, understands the complexities of every choice. She is not bound by time or place, her magic is fluid, ever-changing, like the phases of the moon that she commands. Her three faces are a reminder that there is always more than one way to see the world, more than one path to take, and that magic is not just about power but about understanding. Hecate's connection to the night is profound. Under the cover of darkness, when the world is quiet and still, her magic is at its most potent. The night is her domain, a place where she can move unseen, her spells weaving through the shadows. The moon, her constant companion, watches over her, its light guiding her steps as she moves through the world. To see Hecate in her element is to witness the full power of the night, the way it hides and reveals, the way it holds secrets that the daylight can never touch. Those who honor Hecate often do so with offerings at the crossroads, leaving tokens of their respect and hope for her favor. They know that to have Hecate on your side is to have a powerful ally, one who can open doors that are otherwise sealed shut. She does not ask for much, just acknowledgement, a nod to the power she wields and the role she plays. But to disrespect Hecate, to take her magic for granted, is to invite disaster. Her wrath is as fierce as her protection, and she does not hesitate to remind those who forget just who they are dealing with. Hecate is more than a goddess, she is the embodiment of magic itself, the keeper of the crossroads, the guide in the dark. She stands as a reminder that magic is not always about light and goodness, sometimes it is about making the hard choices, about facing the darkness with open eyes and a steady heart. She is the whisper in the night, the flicker of torchlight in the distance, the feeling that you are never truly alone, even in the darkest moments. Hecate's magic is the promise that there is always a way forward, always a path to take, no matter how lost you may feel. When the sky grows dark and the winds carry a chill that cuts to the bone, the Morrigan is near. She is the whisper of dread before a battle, the shadow that lingers at the edges of dreams, a force that seems to pull at the very threads of fate. Known as the Phantom Queen, she walks the battlefields of Celtic mythology, her presence a sign that change is coming. Warriors look to the horizon and feel a shiver when they think they see her shape, sometimes a crow, sometimes a beautiful woman, and sometimes a figure draped in shadows, her eyes glowing like embers in the night. The Morrigan is not just one being, she is many, a triple goddess of war, prophecy, and fate. She watches from the sidelines of battles, her voice echoing like a wail through the clashing of swords and the cries of the wounded. She chooses who will win and who will fall, her decisions as swift and cold as the steel that takes a life. She revels in the chaos, moving through it like a storm, and with every step, she weaves the future, twisting it in ways only she understands. Her prophecies are not kind or gentle, they are brutal truths, often spoken in riddles that leave a heavy weight on the hearts of those who hear them. Her shapeshifting is a power that knows no bounds. One moment, she is a crow perched on a tree branch, watching with unblinking eyes, her feathers dark as the deepest night. In the next, she is a wolf, prowling the edges of a camp, her gaze piercing through the firelight. She takes the form of a raven, cawing ominously over the heads of warriors, or a ghostly figure that appears in the corner of an eye, gone before you can blink. Each form is a message, a sign that something is about to change, that death is near, that hope is a fragile thing easily broken. Her transformations are not just tricks, they are her way of moving unseen, of being everywhere and nowhere all at once, a haunting presence that cannot be escaped. The Morrigan spells are not of the kind that bring comfort or healing. They are spells of war, of chaos, of endings. She can stir up anger in the hearts of men, turn brother against brother, friend against friend. She whispers into the ears of kings, sowing seeds of distrust and fear, setting plans in motion that lead to bloodshed. Her magic is the spark that lights the fire of conflict, the wind that fans the flames until they burn out of control. When the Morrigan speaks, her words are heavy with power, each one a stone thrown into the calm waters of fate, sending ripples that can be felt far and wide. In the tales of old, she appears before battles, foretelling the doom of warriors. She doesn't merely predict their deaths, she seems to savor them, her voice echoing with a cold satisfaction as she tells them of the fates that await. Some say they have seen her washing armor in a river, the water turning red with blood, an omen that the owner of that armor will not live to see another day. Others tell of seeing her by the side of the road, her eyes locked onto theirs, her presence a heavy weight that lingers long after she has vanished. To see the Morrigan is to know that death is close, to feel the cold breath of the inevitable on the back of your neck. But the Morrigan is not just a bringer of death, she is a force of transformation. In her wake, nothing remains the same. She watches over the thresholds of change, her power shifting and molding the world around her. To cross paths with the Morrigan is to be changed forever, to be marked by her in ways that can never be undone. She represents the cycle of life and death, of destruction and rebirth, her presence a reminder that nothing lasts forever, that all things must come to an end so that something new can begin. Her prophecies are filled with the promise of this change. They are not just warnings of death, they are hints of what lies beyond, glimpses of futures that are yet to be shaped. But her visions are never clear-cut, never simple. They twist and turn, layered with meaning that is often hard to grasp. Those who receive her prophecies must sift through her words, trying to make sense of the images she shows them. But the Morrigan does not make it easy. She relishes in the confusion, watching as her cryptic messages leave those who hear them second-guessing every decision, every move, haunted by the fear that they have misunderstood her. The Morrigan spells and prophecies are feared not just for their power but for their unpredictability. She is not a force that can be controlled or appeased. She follows her own path, driven by motives that no one can fully understand. She might grant favor to a warrior one day and curse them the next. Her magic is wild, untamed, like the storms that rage across the open fields, tearing up everything in their path. Those who try to bargain with her often find themselves caught in a web of deceit, their lives twisted into something unrecognizable by the time she is done. To the warriors of ancient times, the Morrigan was both a warning and a challenge. Her presence pushed them to fight harder, to face their fears, to rise to the challenge of the battlefield. But she was also a reminder of the futility of it all, of the fragile line between life and death. No matter how skilled or brave, no warrior could escape her gaze once it was set upon them. She was the ultimate judge, the one who decided when a life would end and how. To see her was to know that your fate was no longer your own, that your story was now in her hands, to be ended at her whim. Even now, the Morrigan's legend endures, her presence felt in the quiet moments before a storm, in the eerie silence that falls over a battlefield, and the sudden sense of foreboding that grips the heart. She is the embodiment of fate, of the inevitable change that comes to all things. Her magic is the dark thread that weaves through the tapestry of life, binding together the moments of triumph and despair, of hope and loss. She is a reminder that power comes with a cost, that every spell cast, every prophecy spoken, carries with it a weight that cannot be easily set aside. In every raven's call, and every shadow that flits across the moonlit ground, the Morrigan lives on. She is the dark queen of battle, the whisperer of prophecies, the bringer of doom and the herald of transformation. Her magic is the kind that stirs the soul and chills the blood, a force of nature that moves through the world like a restless wind, touching all who dare to cross her path. To know the Morrigan is to understand the true nature of power, wild, untamable, and forever shadowed by the promise of change. In the desolate hills of Thessaly, where the wind howls like a chorus of lost souls, there lies a shadow that no one dares to confront. Eric, though, the infamous necromancer, stalks these barren lands, her presence as unsettling as the chill that creeps up your spine when you feel eyes watching you in the dark. She is not just a figure from forgotten tales, she is a nightmare brought to life, a woman whose very name stirs fear in the hearts of those who hear it. Her power is unlike any other, and her rituals, shrouded in darkness and death, are not for the faint of heart. Eric, though, is no ordinary witch, she is a necromancer, one who bends the dead to her will. Her rituals are said to be so gruesome that even the bravest men would turn pale at the sight. She moves among the graves as if they were her garden, her eyes scanning the earth for the perfect soul to summon back from the underworld. In Roman literature, she is depicted as a figure of terror, her appearance haggard and fearsome, her hair wild and tangled like the roots of ancient trees. Her voice is a rasping whisper, like dry leaves scraping against stone, and her eyes glow with an unholy light, reflecting the forbidden knowledge she holds. Her necromantic rituals are not whispered spells or simple incantations, they are violent, raw, and drenched in blood. Eric, though, does not simply call the dead, she drags them from their rest, tearing them from the peace they have found in death. She commands them with a voice that cracks like thunder, her words filled with an authority that no soul, living or dead, can ignore. She uses herbs and potions made from ingredients that only the most desperate would touch, venomous roots, the blood of beasts, and sometimes even the flesh of the dead themselves. Her cauldron bubbles with a mixture of death and despair, the smoke that rises from it thick and choking, carrying the scent of decay. Erichtho's power is not just in raising the dead, it is in her ability to see what others cannot. She peers into the future as if it were an open book, her mind reaching into the shadows of what is to come. She uses the spirits she summons not just as tools but as guides, their whispered secrets revealing the twists of fate that lie ahead. Her visions are not the comforting kind, they are dark, filled with warnings and omens of doom. She does not sugarcoat her prophecies, Erichtho tells them as they are, her voice cold and unfeeling, like the bite of winter wind. The dead do not come to her willingly. Erichtho must often use force, tearing them from the earth with her spells, her hands stained with the dirt of graves. She does not flinch at the sight of decaying flesh or the stench of death, she embraces it, her touch is cold as the bodies she commands. She pries secrets from the lips of the dead, her eyes burning with a fierce hunger for knowledge that transcends the mortal world. The spirits writhe in her grasp, bound by spells that cannot be broken, their cries lost in the wind as Erichtho pulls them into her world of the living. Erichtho's reputation is not one of respect but of fear. She is the kind of witch that mothers warn their children about, the kind of figure that lurks in the darkest corners of the mind. Warriors who hear of her turn their faces away, muttering prayers to ward off her gaze, hoping that her eyes do not fall upon them in search of a new soul to torment. Her presence is felt even in her absence, a lingering dread that settles over the land like a fog. Those who seek her out do so with trembling hearts, knowing that whatever answers she gives will not be without a price. She lives on the outskirts, far from the warmth of any hearth or home. Her dwelling is a place of rot and ruin, filled with the bones of creatures that have long since perished. The ground around her is scorched and barren, as if the very earth recoils from her touch. It is said that no plant will grow near Erichtho, and no animal dares to approach her lair. She is a blight upon the land, a living reminder of the thin line between life and death, and the dark power that lies in between. Those who come to her seeking the future are often met with visions that haunt them long after they leave. Eric, though, does not comfort or console. She speaks only the truth, as brutal and unyielding as a blade. She tells of wars that will be lost, of loved ones who will die, of betrayals that will cut deeper than any sword. Her words are a poison that seeps into the mind, spreading doubt and fear. But for those desperate enough, her prophecies are worth the risk, for Eric, though, sees what others cannot, her visions as clear as the still surface of a dark pool. Her spells are not meant for good, they are tools of chaos and destruction. She casts curses that linger like a sickness, their effects spreading through the lives of those they touch. Erictho's magic is a weapon, sharp and unforgiving, aimed at the hearts of those who dare to cross her. She is not above using her power for her own gain, her eyes always watching for the next opportunity to tighten her grip on the world of the living. Her spells leave a mark, a reminder that Erictho's reach extends beyond death, her influence seeping into the very fabric of fate. She does not shy away from blood. In fact, it is often at the center of her rituals, a necessary component for her to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Eric, though, uses blood as a conduit, drawing power from its life force, twisting it into something dark and unnatural. She stains the earth with it, her hands slick and red as she chants her incantations, the words flowing from her lips like a dark river. Her rituals are a dance with death, each movement precise and calculated, each word a key to unlocking the gates of the underworld. Eric, though, is not bound by the rules that govern the mortal world. She bends them, breaks them, molds them to her will. She is the embodiment of forbidden magic, a figure who does not care for the laws of man or gods. Her power comes from a place beyond reason, beyond morality, where only the strongest and most daring can tread. To face Eric, though, is to face the unknown, to stand on the edge of a precipice and look into the abyss. She is a force of nature, as untamed and unpredictable as the storms that rage across the night sky. In Roman literature, Eric, though, stands as a symbol of everything that lies beyond the grasp of mortal understanding. She is the fear of what happens after death, the unease that comes with knowing there are things in this world that cannot be controlled or explained. Her character is a reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be closed, and that the pursuit of forbidden knowledge often comes with a cost too great to bear. Eric, though, is a beacon in the darkness, her presence a warning of the power that lies just beyond the veil, waiting for those brave or foolish enough to seek it out. In the flickering shadows of 17th century Paris, a woman moved through the alleys like a phantom, her name whispered with a mix of fear and awe. Catherine Monvoisin, known as La Voisin, was not just any woman, she was the infamous witch at the heart of one of the darkest chapters in French history, the affair of the poisons. She was the keeper of secrets, the dealer of deadly potions, and the conductor of black masses that pulled the desperate and the powerful into her web. Her life was a dance with darkness, every step shrouded in danger, every decision steeped in forbidden magic. La Voisin was no stranger to the plight of the desperate. In her small house, nestled in the bustling streets of Paris, she offered more than just potions and remedies. For the wealthy who sought her out, she promised hope in the form of deadly vials and whispered incantations. She did not turn away those who came to her with heavy hearts and darker desires. Instead, she welcomed them with a knowing smile, her eyes glinting with the promise of secrets shared. To many, she was a savior who offered a way out when all seemed lost, but the price of her aid was steep, often paid in lives and lingering guilt. La Voisin's clientele ranged from the lowly to the nobility, each seeking her unique brand of help. Some came for love potions, desperate to win the hearts of those they desired. Others sought her skill in poisons, looking to rid themselves of rivals, husbands, wives, or enemies. In her hands, these poisons were more than just a means to an end, they were tools of power, each drop a carefully crafted piece of her influence. She mixed them in secret, her fingers moving deftly among bottles and herbs, her face calm as she brewed death into a liquid that could be slipped into a cup or sprinkled into a meal. Her customers knew that with La Voisin's touch, their problems could disappear, but so too could their humanity. The most chilling aspect of La Voisin's work was not her poisons, but her black masses. In the dark of night, behind closed doors, she performed rituals that sent shivers through the spines of those who heard of them. She summoned priests who had turned away from the light, draping her gatherings in the blasphemy of twisted faith. Her altars were not places of worship but of sacrifice, draped in black and surrounded by the tools of her unholy craft. She was said to use the blood of newborns, stolen from their mothers in the dead of night, a chilling sacrifice to dark forces that she claimed could grant wishes and change fates. The black masses were not just forbidden, they were revolting, a stark contrast to the sanctity of the church. The participants would lay on the altar, often bare and vulnerable, as La Voisin whispered incantations meant to bring forth power from the shadows. She chanted in a language that few understood, her voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate with the energy of the room. The air would grow thick with the scent of burning herbs, the smoke swirling around the faces of those present, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and anticipation. They were there to ask for impossible things, to win the love of a king, to secure a fortune, to rid themselves of those who stood in their way. And La Voisin, with her knowledge of the dark arts, was the gatekeeper to these desires. It was not long before La Voisin's influence spread through the highest echelons of French society. Her name was on the lips of courtiers, whispered behind fans and closed doors. Nobles who appeared calm and composed in the light of day would seek her out under the cover of night, their hearts heavy with the burdens of power and the secrets they could share with no one else. They trusted her with their darkest desires, and she delivered with a confidence that left them both relieved and terrified. She did not judge, she simply provided what was asked, no matter how twisted the request. But power, as La Voisin knew, always comes with a price. The more she gave, the more was demanded of her. Her house became a hub of plotting and secrecy, a place where the desires of the powerful intertwined with the deadly potential of her poisons and spells. She navigated this world with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue, keeping her own cards close to her chest. She knew that in the game she played, trust was a luxury she could not afford. She moved like a spider through her web, careful not to get caught in the strands of her own making. Yet, the danger was always close. The affair of the poisons was more than just a scandal, it was a glimpse into the rot at the heart of the French court. As the bodies piled up and the rumors spread, the eyes of the king and his advisors turned toward La Voisin. They saw not just a witch, but a threat to the delicate balance of power that kept the court in check. Her poisons had touched the lives of too many, her spells had twisted the fates of the powerful, and her black masses had blasphemed against the very foundations of the church. The end came swiftly for La Voisin. She was arrested, dragged from her home as the neighbors watched, their faces a mix of relief and fear. They had known what she was, had seen the visitors who came in the dead of night, had heard the whispers of her deeds. And now, as she was led away in chains, they wondered what would become of the secret she held. La Voisin stood before her accusers, her face still, her eyes defiant. She knew that the end was near, but she did not beg or plead. She stood as she always had, calm, collected, and unafraid of the darkness that awaited her. They burned her in the square, a public execution meant to cleanse the city of her sins. The flames roared, reaching up to the sky as if trying to touch the heavens she had so often defied. The crowd watched, some in horror, others with a grim satisfaction, as the smoke rose and the witch of Paris was consumed by the fire. But even as her body turned to ash, the legacy of La Voisin lingered. Her name would be spoken in hushed tones for years to come, a reminder of the power she wielded and the fear she inspired. La Voisin's story is one of ambition, of darkness, and of the lengths to which people will go to seize control of their own destinies. She was more than a witch, she was a symbol of the dangerous dance between power and peril, a figure who stood at the crossroads of desire and despair. Her spells, her poisons, and her unholy masses were not just acts of rebellion against the established order, they were her way of navigating a world that offered no mercy to those who lived on the fringes. La Voisin did what she had to, and in doing so, she carved her name into the annals of history, forever remembered as the witch who dared to challenge the very fabric of French society. On a moonless night, where shadows stretch like dark fingers across the land, a woman waits in a small, dimly lit room. This is not an ordinary room, it is a place where the veil between life and death is whispered thin. The Witch of Endor, a name spoken with a shiver, prepares for an act that will echo through time. With trembling hands, she lights candles, their flickering flames casting eerie shadows on the walls. Her heart races as she gathers her tools, her herbs, her potions, and her spells. Tonight, she will perform a forbidden act, one that defies the natural order and challenges the very fabric of life and death. The air is thick with tension as she begins her ritual. Her voice is a soft murmur, weaving through the dark room like a serpent. She calls out to the spirit world, her words a delicate thread connecting the living to the dead. She is a conjurer of spirits, her magic potent and dangerous, capable of summoning those who have long since passed from this world. But this night is different. Tonight, she seeks to call forth a prophet, a figure from the depths of history, a man whose words once shaped the fate of nations. The Witch of Endor is not a figure of beauty or grace, she is a woman burdened by the weight of her own choices. Her face is lined with the marks of a life spent in secrecy and danger, her eyes dark pools reflecting the fears and desires of those who seek her aid. Her hands, though steady, are worn from years of practicing magic that many would consider blasphemous. Yet, despite the weight of her actions, she remains resolute. She knows the risks of what she is about to do, the dangers that come with tampering with the spirit world. As she chants the incantations, the room grows colder, the air heavy with the scent of burning herbs and the faint whisper of something beyond. The candles flicker and dim, their light struggling against the encroaching darkness. The shadows on the walls seem to dance and twist, taking on shapes that are not quite human. The witch's heart pounds in her chest as she feels a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle yet profound change that signals the presence of something, or someone, from the other side. The spirit of Samuel is summoned, his presence announced by a chilling breeze that sweeps through the room. The air crackles with an energy that is both ancient and powerful. The witch feels a shiver run down her spine as the ghostly figure of Samuel materializes before her, his form ethereal and faint, like a wisp of smoke caught in the moonlight. His eyes, though hollow, are full of a depth that speaks of a wisdom and a sadness that transcends time. Samuel's appearance is not one of comfort, it is a stark reminder of the consequences of the witch's actions. His voice, when he speaks, is a hollow echo, reverberating with a sense of loss and foreboding. The words he utters are not just messages from beyond, but warnings, tinged with the weight of his own death and the unnaturalness of his return. The witch listens, her face pale and her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and dread, as Samuel reveals truths that were never meant to be known. The consequences of summoning Samuel are immediate and profound. The witch knows that she has crossed a line that should not have been crossed. The act of calling a spirit from the other side is not just a breach of religious and moral codes, it is a defiance of the natural order, a challenge to the divine will. In the Bible, the act is condemned, and the witch's fear is that she will face divine retribution. The room feels heavier, the darkness more oppressive, as if the very fabric of reality is tightening around her, preparing to exact a price for her transgression. Samuel's spirit, while bound to the witch's call, is not without his own anguish. His presence is a reminder of the eternal separation between the living and the dead, a space that should not be bridged. His message is clear, the act of summoning him has brought with it a great cost, one that cannot be easily borne. The witch is left with the haunting realization that her actions have set in motion events that will not easily be undone. The consequences extend beyond the immediate moment. The Witch of Endor will face the repercussions of her forbidden spell not only in her own life, but also in the lives of those who sought her out. The spirit world does not remain passive, it responds to the disturbances caused by such actions. The witch's once hidden life will come under scrutiny, her actions scrutinized by those who seek to understand the dark forces she has unleashed. Her reputation, already tainted by her dealings with the occult, will be further stained by the summoning of Samuel's spirit. The impact of the witch's spell is felt in the larger world as well. Samuel's appearance is a sign of impending change, a harbinger of shifts that will affect not only the witch but also the broader fabric of society. The echoes of her actions ripple out, touching the lives of those who may not even be aware of the events unfolding in that dimly lit room. The Witch of Ender's forbidden act will not be forgotten. It will be remembered as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in seeking knowledge and power beyond the limits set by the divine. In the end, the Witch of Ender's story is one of profound risk and consequence. Her act of summoning Samuel's spirit is a reminder of the perils of defying the natural order, a cautionary tale of the costs that come with seeking to bridge the divide between life and death. Her actions, driven by desperation and a desire for knowledge, lead her into a realm where the boundaries of existence are blurred and the price of transgression is steep. The witch's legacy is one of darkness and fear, a testament to the dangers of tampering with forces that are beyond human control. In the stillness of the ancient night, when shadows grow long and the moon hangs heavy in the sky, a figure emerges from the darkness, her presence both alluring and terrifying. Lilith, the name itself a whisper of power and mystery, is known across various myths as the first witch, a seductress who commands both fear and fascination. Her story, interwoven with themes of rebellion and enchantment, is one that has captivated the imagination for centuries. Lilith's legend begins in the ancient texts, where she is often depicted as a figure of defiance and strength. Unlike the submissive role traditionally expected of women in early myths, Lilith stands apart as a symbol of independence and power. She was created alongside Adam, not from his rib but from the same soil, marking her as his equal. This equality, however, became the root of her downfall. Refusing to be subservient, Lilith chose to leave the Garden of Eden, casting aside her place in paradise for a life of freedom, no matter how perilous it might be. Her departure from Eden was not a simple escape, but a dramatic act of rebellion. Lilith's refusal to submit to Adam and the divine plan led her to be branded as an outcast. In the mythological tapestry, she transforms from a figure of defiance to a haunting specter. Her legend grew darker as she was cast into the night, where she was said to wander alone, her name becoming synonymous with danger and the unknown. Lilith's power, however, was not to be underestimated. She was believed to possess forbidden knowledge and magic that could both allure and destroy. Her spells were not mere tricks, they were potent and perilous, capable of influencing the minds and hearts of those who crossed her path. In some tales, she is described as a seductress, using her charms to ensnare men, bending their will to her own. Her magic could ensnare the unwary, casting spells that led them astray or into deep, dark despair. The fear surrounding Lilith is palpable in the myths that describe her. She is often portrayed as a threat to newborns and pregnant women, a figure who could cast spells of sickness and death upon them. Her name became a warning, a symbol of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, preying on those who were vulnerable. Parents would invoke her name to scare their children into obedience, and women would whisper her name to ward off malevolent spirits. Lilith was both a mythic figure to be feared and a symbol of the fears that lie within human hearts. The forbidden spells attributed to Lilith were said to be those that manipulated life and death itself. She had the power to alter destinies, to bring about doom with a single incantation. Her magic was not confined to simple spells or potions, but extended to the realms of the dark and forbidden. Legends tell of her casting spells that could make men lose their minds or cause women to suffer in childbirth. Her influence was said to reach into the very fabric of existence, touching the lives of those who dared to cross her. Yet, the most haunting aspect of Lilith's legend is the way she embodies the fears of the unknown. In a world where the divine and the mortal are intertwined, Lilith represents the fear of the uncontainable, the fear of a force that defies the boundaries set by society and religion. She is the embodiment of chaos and rebellion, a figure who challenges the established order and the norms of the time. Her power is both seductive and dangerous, a reminder of the potential for destruction that lies within the unknown. As the stories of Lilith spread, her image evolved from a powerful witch to a more complex and nuanced figure. She became a symbol of feminist resistance, a figure who defied the roles imposed upon her and sought to reclaim her own power. In modern interpretations, Lilith is often seen as a figure of strength and autonomy, a witch who embodies the struggle against oppression and the quest for self-determination. Lilith's legacy is one of power and fear, a tale that resonates through the ages. Her story is a haunting reminder of the consequences of defiance and the power of forbidden magic. She remains a potent symbol of the dangers and allure of the unknown, her name a whisper of both fear and fascination. Lilith, the first witch, stands as a testament to the enduring power of myth and the fears that lie within the human soul. Her legend continues to captivate and terrify, a shadowy figure whose influence extends beyond the realm of myth and into the depths of our darkest fears. At the edge of a moonlit lake, where the water shimmers like liquid silver, a figure emerges from the depths, her presence both alluring and fearsome. This is Mami Wata, a spirit of water whose beauty and power have captivated the hearts and minds of those who have encountered her. She is a witch of the water, a being of enchantment and danger, whose magic can both bless and curse. Mami Wata's beauty is legendary, a mesmerizing blend of charm and danger. Her appearance is often described as both enchanting and terrifying: long, flowing hair, a gaze that can pierce the soul, and a voice that carries the weight of the ocean's whispers. Her beauty is not just for show, it is a tool she uses to ensnare those who wander too close to her domain. Those who meet her gaze are often struck with a sense of awe, but beneath that beauty lies a power that can be both seductive and destructive. Her magic is as fluid and unpredictable as the water she commands. Mami Wata has the ability to offer great wealth and prosperity to those who seek her favor. She can turn the tides of fortune in an instant, bestowing riches upon the fortunate or the foolish. Her allure is powerful, a promise of luxury and abundance that can blind those who seek her out. But with this promise comes a price, a cost that is often revealed only when it is too late to turn back. The forbidden spells of Mami Wata are not merely about material gain, they are intricately tied to the darker aspects of her power. Those who fall under her spell may find themselves enmeshed in a web of their own desires, drawn deeper and deeper into a world where the line between pleasure and pain is blurred. Her magic can manipulate desires, transforming them into obsessions that lead to ruin. The very wealth she offers can become a trap, a gilded cage that ensnares its bearer in a cycle of greed and despair. Her influence extends beyond the mere material. Mami Wata's spells can also bring about destruction and chaos. Those who break promises or defy her are met with harsh consequences. The same water that once seemed so inviting can become a force of vengeance, sweeping away everything in its path. Her wrath is not to be taken lightly, for it can lead to the loss of not just wealth, but of life itself. The stories of those who have fallen afoul of Mami Wata often speak of sudden, tragic ends, of lives turned to ruin by the very magic that once seemed so promising. The allure of Mami Wata is a double-edged sword. Her presence is a reminder of the dangers that come with seeking out forbidden power. Her beauty and promise of wealth can blind even the most cautious, leading them to make deals and bargains that are fraught with peril. The stories of those who have encountered her are filled with themes of temptation and betrayal, of promises made and broken, and of the heavy cost of trying to outwit a being as powerful as Mami Wata. Her power is not limited to physical destruction. The emotional and psychological impact of encountering Mami Wata can be just as devastating. Those who fall under her spell may find themselves haunted by their desires and fears, their lives unraveling in ways they could never have imagined. The psychological toll of dealing with a spirit as enigmatic and powerful as Mami Wata is immense, leaving a mark on those who encounter her that lingers long after the initial encounter. In many cultures, Mami Wata is also a symbol of the ocean's mystery and power. The water that she commands is both life-giving and life-taking, a force that can nurture as easily as it can destroy. Her presence is a reminder of the natural world's vast and unpredictable nature, of the ways in which its beauty can conceal its dangers. Those who encounter her are faced with the challenge of understanding this duality, of navigating a world where beauty and danger are often intertwined. The legend of Mami Wata is one of enchantment and fear, a story that captures the imagination and evokes a deep sense of awe. Her magic, powerful and unpredictable, serves as a reminder of the risks associated with seeking out forbidden power. Her beauty and allure are matched only by the danger she represents, making her a figure of both fascination and terror. In the waters where she dwells, the line between blessing and curse is thin, and the price of her favor can be steep indeed. In the bleak, frozen expanse of the highlands, where snow blankets the earth and the wind howls like a restless spirit, a figure emerges from the frost. This is the Kaleech, the ancient hag of winter whose very name sends shivers down the spine. Known in Scottish and Irish folklore, the Kaleech is a formidable witch with the power to shape the seasons and command the forces of nature with a flick of her gnarled fingers. Her presence is a chilling reminder of winter's relentless grip. Clad in rags of ice and snow, her appearance is as harsh as the cold she wields. The Kaleech's eyes are like dark, icy pools that reflect the frigid depths of her power. Her voice is a harsh whisper carried on the wind, a sound that can freeze the marrow in your bones. To encounter her is to feel the full weight of winter's wrath, a force of nature that is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Kaleech's magic is deeply entwined with the changing seasons. Her power over the weather is absolute, a gift, or curse, that allows her to control the arrival and departure of winter. When she chooses, she can summon blizzards that sweep across the land, burying villages under mountains of snow. Her spells can turn calm winter days into tempestuous storms, her icy breath bringing frost and ruin. Those who live in her domain know that her whims can spell the difference between life and death, as the harsh winter she commands can be unforgiving and cruel. But the Kaleech is not merely a bringer of cold. Her magic also governs the transition between seasons. In the mythic calendar, her influence extends beyond the chill of winter, marking the shifting of time from one season to another. As winter wanes, the Kaleech's power recedes, making way for the arrival of spring. During this time, her strength wanes, and she transforms from the fierce hag of winter into a more subdued presence, her power gradually giving way to the renewal of life. The consequences of crossing the Kaleech are dire. Her anger is as fierce as the storm she commands. Those who anger her or fail to respect her power may find themselves at the mercy of the harshest winter imaginable. Crops can be ruined by late frost, and travelers can be lost to blizzards that seem to come out of nowhere. Her influence extends beyond mere weather, it seeps into the lives of those who live under her reign, affecting their fortunes and survival. The stories of the Kaleech are filled with themes of respect and fear. She is both a guardian and a punishment, her power a reminder of the delicate balance between nature and humanity. The tales often depict her as a stern and unyielding figure, one who demands respect for the forces of nature she controls. Her spells are a reminder of the dangers that come with underestimating the natural world, a force that can be both life-giving and destructive. In many tales, the Kaleech is portrayed as a figure of ancient wisdom, her knowledge of the land and its cycles deep and profound. She understands the rhythms of nature, the way that winter gives way to spring, and the cycle of life and death that governs the natural world. Her spells, while fearsome, are also a part of this natural order, a reminder of the power that lies in the balance of the seasons. Those who honor this balance and respect the forces of nature are more likely to find favor with her, while those who disregard her power may face harsh consequences. The impact of the Kaleech's magic is not limited to the physical realm. Her presence is a symbol of the profound connection between humanity and the natural world. Her spells remind people of the fragility of life and the need to live in harmony with the forces that govern their world. In the face of her power, people are reminded of their place in the larger scheme of things, and the need to respect and honor the natural cycles that shape their lives. The Kaleech's legacy is one of awe and reverence, a reminder of the powerful forces that shape the world around us. Her magic, while fearsome, is also a testament to the deep and abiding connection between humanity and nature. The stories of the Kaleech serve as a powerful reminder of the need to live in balance with the world, to honor the cycles of nature, and to respect the forces that govern our lives. Her presence is a chilling, awe-inspiring testament to the power of the natural world and the delicate balance that exists within it. In the darkened chambers of an ancient castle, where shadows stretch long and cold, a figure moves with a sinister grace. This is Grimhild, a queen whose name is whispered with both fear and awe. Known for her mastery of dark magic and potions, she wields her power with a cruel precision that can both enchant and destroy. Her tale is one of manipulation and curses, a story that sends chills through the hearts of those who hear it. Grimhild's beauty was said to be as captivating as her magic was dangerous. With eyes that could pierce through to a person's very soul and a smile that could charm even the most guarded heart, she used her allure as a weapon. But behind her enchanting facade lay a mind capable of the darkest sorcery. As a queen, she possessed the power to influence not just individuals, but entire kingdoms. Her spells were not mere tricks, they were powerful, forbidden arts that could change the course of fate itself. Her greatest weapon was her mastery of potions. These were no ordinary brews, but concoctions that could alter emotions, bend wills, and even bring about death. With a few ingredients and whispered incantations, Grimhild could transform a person's fate from joy to despair. Her potions were sought after by those who desired power or revenge, and their effects were feared throughout the land. People would come to her with their deepest wishes and darkest desires, only to find that their bargains came at a steep price. One of the most haunting aspects of Grimhild's magic was her ability to manipulate those around her. She could weave spells that influenced thoughts and feelings, turning allies into enemies and weaving webs of deceit. Her enemies would find themselves ensnared in her schemes, their actions controlled by the subtle threads of her magic. Friends would betray each other, lovers would turn cold, and all the while, Grimhild remained the unseen hand guiding the chaos. The most infamous of her dark spells was her curse. Those who fell afoul of Grimhild often found themselves the victims of terrible misfortune. Her curses were not easily broken, and their effects could last a lifetime. She had the power to turn the happiest of lives into ones of sorrow and ruin. The curse could manifest in many forms: illness, madness, or even death. To cross her was to invite a storm of suffering that would touch every part of one's life. Grimhild's most notorious act of vengeance came when she cursed the great hero Sigurd. Driven by jealousy and rage, she used her dark magic to sow discord among the heroes and gods. Her curse led to a chain of events that resulted in bloodshed and tragedy. Sigurd, once a noble hero, became ensnared in a web of betrayal and death. The consequences of her curse rippled through the lives of many, illustrating the depth of Grimhild's power and the fear it inspired. Her manipulation of fate extended beyond individual lives. Grimhild's influence could change the course of entire dynasties. By casting her spells, she could alter alliances, shift loyalties, and bring about the downfall of those who opposed her. Her dark magic was a tool of control and domination, wielded with a cunning that made her a formidable and feared figure in Norse mythology. Yet, beneath the fearsome reputation, there was also a tragic element to Grimhild's story. Her power, while fearsome, was also isolating. The very magic that made her formidable also made her a figure of dread and suspicion. The relationships she manipulated and the lives she ruined left her surrounded by enemies and betrayed allies. Her loneliness was a constant companion, a stark contrast to the power she wielded. Grimhild's tale is a haunting reminder of the power of forbidden magic and the consequences of wielding it without restraint. Her ability to control, curse, and manipulate made her one of the most feared figures in Norse mythology. Her potions could alter destiny, her curses could bring about ruin, and her manipulations could shatter lives. In her story, there is a chilling echo of the dark side of power, a reminder of the ways in which magic can corrupt and destroy. Under the silvery glow of a full moon, the air in Thessaly seems to shimmer with an otherworldly light. Here, in this ancient land steeped in legend, the witches of Thessaly hold sway with their dark, forbidden powers. They are masters of the moon, and their spells wield an eerie and compelling magic that sends shivers down the spine. The Thessalian witches are not just figures of myth, they are embodiments of the moon's mysterious allure. These witches possess the rare ability to channel the moon's energy into potent spells, casting their magic in the dead of night. Their connection to the moon is deep and profound, a bond that allows them to control forces beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Their rituals, performed under the moon's pale gaze, harness its power to achieve feats both wondrous and terrifying. One of the most chilling aspects of their magic is their mastery of necromancy. Under the moon's light, these witches can call forth the spirits of the dead, summoning souls from their graves with a whisper and a wave of their hand. This forbidden craft allows them to converse with the deceased, seek their counsel, or even manipulate them to do their bidding. The process is a dark dance with death, where the line between the living and the dead blurs in a way that evokes both fascination and horror. The necromantic spells of the Thessalian witches are not merely for communication with the dead. They use these dark arts to control spirits, bend them to their will, and command them to perform tasks that the living cannot. These spells often come with a heavy price, however. The power to control the dead brings with it a burden that weighs heavily on those who wield it. The spirits, once summoned, are not always willing to be bound and may seek revenge or cause chaos if not handled with great care. The witches' influence over the weather is another chilling aspect of their power. By harnessing the moon's energy, they can manipulate the elements with astonishing precision. Rainfall can be summoned or withheld, storms can be brewed or calmed, and the very winds can be bent to their will. Their ability to control the weather makes them formidable and feared, as the changes they orchestrate can bring about both prosperity and ruin. Farmers and sailors alike live in awe and trepidation of their capricious spells, knowing that their livelihoods can be swayed by the witches' whims. The weather spells of the Thessalian witches are not just about control, they are also a form of retribution. Those who cross these witches or fail to show them proper respect may find themselves at the mercy of a sudden, devastating storm. The witches can unleash tempestuous winds, blinding rain, or chilling frost as a means of punishment. The power to manipulate the weather is both a blessing and a curse, wielded with a sense of authority that demands respect and fear. The rituals performed by the Thessalian witches are both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Gathered under the moon's light, they engage in elaborate ceremonies that involve chanting ancient incantations, drawing complex symbols, and offering sacrifices. These rituals are a way of channeling the moon's energy into their spells, imbuing their magic with a potency that is both beautiful and terrifying. The sight of these ceremonies, with their flickering candlelight and hushed voices, creates an atmosphere that is charged with a sense of profound mystery and dread. The power of the Thessalian witches is a reminder of the moon's dual nature. While it provides light in the darkness, it also casts shadows where unseen things lurk. The witches' magic reflects this duality, offering both the potential for great good and the capacity for immense harm. Their abilities to control the dead and the weather serve as a testament to the moon's influence over the forces of life and nature. Living in the shadow of such formidable magic is both mesmerizing and terrifying. The stories of the Thessalian witches evoke a sense of awe and fear, painting a picture of a world where the moon's light reveals both beauty and darkness. Their spells, rooted in ancient lore and practiced with chilling precision, offer a glimpse into the power that can be wielded when the moon's energy is harnessed by those who know its secrets. In Thessaly, the night is never just a time of rest but a period when the witch's influence can be felt most strongly. The moon, in its various phases, guides their magic and their actions, casting a spell over the land that is as captivating as it is formidable. The legacy of the Thessalian witches is one of magic that commands respect, invoking a sense of wonder and fear that lingers long after the moon's light has faded. In the mist-shrouded heights of the Japanese mountains, where the air grows thin and the silence is heavy with secrets, the Yamamba waits. This ancient figure, shrouded in folklore, is a mountain which known for her deadly charm and deceitful ways. The Yamamba is more than a mere story, she embodies the treacherous beauty and peril that lurk in the shadows of the mountains. The Yamanba's presence is marked by an eerie, unsettling silence. Her dwelling, often depicted as a secluded hut hidden among the dense forest, is as much a part of the landscape as the gnarled trees and jagged rocks. The air around her home seems to carry a chill, a warning to those who wander too close. Legends tell of travelers who, lost and weary, stumble upon her hut only to find themselves ensnared in her web of deception. Her magic is a dark and potent force, one that can change the fate of those who encounter her. The Yamamba is known for her ability to cast spells that manipulate the senses and the mind. Her enchantments are not always visible, they work through subtle tricks and illusions that make the world around her seem distorted and threatening. Travelers might find themselves hearing voices that lead them astray, or seeing shadows that shift and move as though alive. One of the most frightening aspects of the Yamanba's magic is her ability to deceive. She is a mistress of disguise, capable of appearing as a harmless old woman or a beautiful young maiden, depending on what suits her purposes. Those who fall for her guise might be lured into her trap, only to discover too late that they have been deceived. The Yamanba's spells can make her appear as a friend or a guide, but her true nature is far more sinister. Her spells are also known to bring about misfortune and death. Legends speak of the Yamanba casting curses on those who wrong her or who venture too close to her domain. These curses can take many forms: illness, madness, or even death. Her power is said to extend beyond mere magic. It influences the very fate of those who cross her path. The unlucky souls who become her victims often find their lives unraveling in unexpected and tragic ways. The Yamanba's role in Japanese folklore is as much about fear as it is about respect. Her power and the danger she represents serve as a warning to those who would venture into the mountains unprepared. The stories about her are told to instill a sense of caution and to remind people of the unseen dangers that can lurk in the natural world. Her presence in folklore is a reflection of the way in which nature's beauty can be deceptive and its dangers hidden. The mountain witch's home is a place of dark magic and unsettling presence. The forest around her hut is thick and tangled, with trees that seem to whisper secrets and shadows that move of their own accord. Those who enter her domain often find themselves lost, both physically and spiritually, as the Yamanba spells twist reality and lead them deeper into confusion. The sense of foreboding that surrounds her is palpable, a constant reminder of the peril that awaits those who ignore the signs. Despite her fearsome reputation, the Yamanba is also a figure of complex emotions. Her magic, while dangerous, is a part of the mountain's natural cycle. She represents the wild and untamed aspects of nature, the forces that are beyond human control. Her actions, though often malevolent, are a reflection of the raw power and unpredictability of the natural world. The fear she inspires is a recognition of the respect due to such power and the acknowledgement of its ability to shape lives and destinies. The stories of the Yamanba are steeped in a sense of eerie beauty. Her ability to transform and deceive, combined with the chilling effect of her magic, creates a figure who is both captivating and terrifying. The legends of the mountain witch evoke a sense of awe and fear, capturing the imagination with tales of her dark spells and deceptive nature. Her presence in folklore is a reminder of the ways in which the natural world can be both wondrous and dangerous, a balance of beauty and peril that is deeply embedded in the stories of those who live near the mountains. In the ancient and dusty pages of biblical history, one name stirs a chilling resonance: Jezebel. The queen, whose name is synonymous with treachery and dark influence, stands as a testament to the perilous allure of forbidden power. Her story unfolds like a dark, tangled web of manipulation and deceit, a story that sends shivers down the spine and raises questions about the true nature of power and control. Jezebel, the queen of Israel, was not merely a figure of political importance. She was a master of forbidden arts, wielding her influence with an almost supernatural force. Her reputation for witchcraft and forbidden practices is more than just a historical footnote. It is a vivid portrayal of how deeply a person's will can shape and shatter destinies. Her story is one of manipulation so profound that it echoes through the ages as a warning of the dangers inherent in wielding unchecked power. Jezebel's influence was both pervasive and terrifying. Her magic was not just in her ability to cast spells, but in her skill at controlling those around her. With a mere glance or a whispered word, she could bend the will of powerful men, making them her pawns in a grand game of power. Her spells were less about incantations and more about the sheer force of her presence and cunning. She played her enemies like chess pieces, shifting alliances and orchestrating betrayals with chilling precision. One of her most notorious acts of manipulation involved the prophet Elijah. Driven by a desire to consolidate her power and eliminate threats, Jezebel sought to undermine Elijah, a man whose very existence challenged her authority. Her schemes were crafted with a dark elegance. She used her influence to falsely accuse innocent people, arranging for their deaths to remove any obstacle to her rule. Her ability to manipulate the legal and political systems of her time was a form of dark magic in itself, as it turned justice on its head and left a trail of destruction in its wake. Jezebel's story also highlights her ruthless approach to power. Her acts of vengeance were not just political but deeply personal. When she sought to destroy those who opposed her, she did so with a cruelty that knew no bounds. Her methods were as cold and calculating as they were effective. She used her knowledge of human nature to exploit weaknesses, turning friend against friend and creating an atmosphere of fear and distrust. The power she wielded was not just through spells, but through the sheer force of her manipulative prowess. Her influence extended beyond her immediate circle to impact the wider kingdom. Jezebel's actions led to a period of great turmoil and strife in Israel. Her control over the king and her ability to sway decisions led to widespread suffering and conflict. The consequences of her reign were felt by many, creating a legacy of fear and chaos that lasted long after her own downfall. Her forbidden power, wielded so ruthlessly, reshaped the political and social landscape, leaving scars that would not easily heal. In her final days, Jezebel's fate was as dramatic as her life. Overthrown and cast out, she faced a grim end that seemed almost poetic in its finality. Her death was a stark reminder of the transient nature of power and the inevitable downfall that follows unchecked ambition. The once feared queen, who had commanded such dark influence, was reduced to a mere symbol of fallen grandeur. Her end was marked by a stark contrast to her life, a somber testament to the destructive power of forbidden influence. The story of Jezebel serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers of forbidden power. Her mastery of manipulation and her ability to wield influence as a form of dark magic highlight the terrifying potential of a will bent on control and domination. Her legacy is a chilling portrait of how the quest for power can lead to a descent into darkness, a story that reverberates through history with a chilling echo. Jezebel's tale is not just one of historical intrigue but a powerful narrative about the nature of influence and power. Her ability to manipulate and control, combined with the devastating consequences of her actions, paints a portrait of a figure whose impact was both profound and terrifying. The story of the witch queen Jezebel stands as a stark reminder of the perilous allure of forbidden power and the dark paths it can lead one down. In the moonlit darkness of ancient Greece, where shadows dance and whispers carry on the wind, the legend of Lamia sends shivers down the spine. Once a queen of unmatched beauty and grace, Lamia's life took a terrifying turn, transforming her into a creature of nightmare and darkness. Lamia was once celebrated for her stunning beauty, admired and envied by many. Her allure was so enchanting that it captivated the hearts of those around her, including the gods themselves. But her happiness was shattered by a cruel twist of fate. In one of the most tragic and bitter turns of mythology, the goddess Hera, consumed by jealousy, cursed Lamia, transforming her into a monstrous figure that would forever haunt the night. The curse twisted Lamia into a ghastly creature, her once beautiful visage now a horrifying mask of nightmares. Her eyes, once sparkling with life, turned into hollow pits of darkness, reflecting only the emptiness of her new existence. Her beauty was replaced by a nightmarish form, with a serpentine lower body and a face that could strike terror into even the bravest of hearts. This monstrous transformation was not just physical but emotional, turning her into a being of pure rage and sorrow. Her transformation was more than just a physical change, it marked her descent into a realm of forbidden magic and dark enchantments. Consumed by her grief and anger, Lamia became a figure of dark sorcery, using her newfound powers to exact revenge on the world. Her heart, once filled with love and beauty, was now a void of despair and malevolence. Lamia's curse was particularly cruel in its specifics. Her grief over the loss of her children, who were taken from her by Hera, drove her to commit unspeakable acts. She began to prey on other children, driven by a dark compulsion that she could not escape. The sight of a child reminded her of her own lost offspring, and her twisted sorrow transformed into a fierce and terrifying rage. Her desire to have what she had lost turned into a monstrous obsession, leading her to hunt and devour innocent children. The stories of Lamia are filled with eerie details that evoke a deep sense of dread. Parents would tell their children of the Lamia to keep them from wandering off into the night. The mere mention of her name was enough to make little ones shiver in fear. The tales described how Lamia would creep through the shadows, her eyes glowing with a malevolent light, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her dark magic was intertwined with her predatory nature. She used spells and enchantments to lure children to her, disguising her true form to appear as a kind and nurturing figure. This deception made her even more terrifying, as she could appear as a comforting presence before revealing her monstrous true self. The victims, drawn in by her false charm, were often too late in realizing the danger they were in. The horror of Lamia's story lies not just in her monstrous acts, but in the tragic transformation that led her to such depths of darkness. The beautiful queen who had once been loved and admired became a creature of sorrow and rage, her life forever marred by loss and betrayal. Her curse was a reflection of how a heart broken by fate can turn into something fearsome and terrible. In the darkness of ancient Greece, Lamia became a symbol of the dangers that lurk beyond the surface of beauty and grace. Her story is a chilling reminder of how quickly one's life can spiral into despair and horror, and how even the most enchanting of beings can be consumed by their darkest emotions. Her transformation into a child-devouring witch is a testament to the destructive power of grief and the terrifying nature of forbidden magic. Lamia's legend is a haunting tale that endures through the ages, a story that continues to evoke fear and fascination. Her transformation from a beautiful queen to a fearsome witch is a powerful narrative of loss and revenge, a reminder of the dark forces that can take hold when one is consumed by sorrow and rage. In the still of the night, when shadows lengthen and the moonlight casts eerie shapes on the ground, a chilling figure emerges from the darkness, the Manananggal. This creature of Philippine folklore is a nightmarish blend of witchcraft and horror, leaving a trail of terror and dread in her wake. The Manananggal is a truly terrifying being, known for her horrifying ability to separate her torso from her lower body. By night, she transforms into a grotesque creature, her upper half floating eerily through the air while her lower half remains behind. The sight of her torso, drifting silently with wings outstretched, is enough to send a shiver down the spine. Her floating form is a symbol of pure dread, a harbinger of the horror that awaits those unfortunate enough to cross her path. In her human form, the Manananggal appears as an ordinary woman, blending seamlessly into the fabric of daily life. She is often depicted as beautiful, charming, and seemingly kind-hearted, hiding her true nature behind a facade of normalcy. This deceptive appearance makes her even more frightening, as it allows her to get close to her victims without arousing suspicion. When night falls, the Manananggal undergoes a terrifying transformation. Her upper body separates from her lower half with a sickening, supernatural ease. Her once human torso grows bat-like wings, and she becomes a menacing creature of the night, capable of flying silently through the darkness. This horrifying transformation is not only visually unsettling but also a testament to her dark and forbidden powers. One of the most terrifying aspects of the Manananggal is her insatiable hunger for human blood. Her primary target is pregnant women, and she is known for seeking out their blood and the unborn child within. She hunts with a cruel and calculating precision, driven by a monstrous desire that is both chilling and grotesque. The terror she brings is not just physical but deeply emotional, as she preys on the most vulnerable, leaving fear and anguish in her wake. The Manananggal's method of attack is as horrifying as her appearance. She sneaks into homes under the cover of night, using her ability to separate her body to slip through small openings. Once inside, she searches for her victims with a predatory stealth. Her hunger is relentless, and her approach is marked by an eerie silence, making her presence all the more terrifying. The spells and magic associated with the Manananggal are as dark as her deeds. Folklore tells of her using forbidden rituals to maintain her monstrous form and to enhance her predatory powers. These dark spells are often shrouded in secrecy, known only to those who study the darkest corners of the supernatural. The power she wields is a chilling reminder of the horrors that can be unleashed through forbidden knowledge and magic. To protect themselves from the Manananggal, people in the Philippines have developed various countermeasures. Some communities use religious artifacts, such as holy water or garlic, to ward off the creature. Others place sharp objects, like needles or broken glass, around their homes, believing that the Manananggal will be deterred by the prospect of her lower body becoming impaled. These protective measures reflect the deep-seated fear and the desperate attempts to defend against the terror she brings. The Manananggal story is more than just a tale of horror, it is a reflection of the primal fears that lie beneath the surface of everyday life. Her ability to transform and her insatiable hunger are symbols of the darkest aspects of human nature and the supernatural. The fear she inspires is a powerful reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows, waiting to pounce when least expected. Her legend continues to haunt the nightmares of those who hear her tale, a chilling reminder of the terror that can emerge from the depths of darkness. The Manananggal story is a testament to the enduring power of folklore to evoke fear and to keep the ancient fears of the night alive in the hearts and minds of those who live in her shadow. In the dark corners of modern culture, where shadows linger and whispers of the past echo through time, the legacy of forbidden witches and their dark magic endures with an almost palpable intensity. These figures, whose stories have traveled from ancient myths to contemporary media, continue to captivate and terrify us, a testament to the timeless allure of the unknown and the forbidden. The witches of old, with their powers to alter fate and manipulate the forces of nature, have left an indelible mark on our collective imagination. Their stories, filled with magic and malevolence, have become more than just legends. They are woven into the fabric of modern storytelling, influencing everything from films and television to books and games. The forbidden spells that once were the stuff of nightmares have been reimagined in countless ways, each new version adding to the chilling legacy of these ancient sorcerers. One of the most striking aspects of their legacy is the way these witches are portrayed in modern media. In films and television, they are often depicted with a blend of fear and fascination. From the wicked witches of fairy tales to the dark enchantresses of horror films, these characters capture the imagination with their blend of beauty and terror. Their spells, once feared for their ability to bring about calamity, are now shown with a new twist, combining ancient magic with contemporary fears and desires. Books and literature have also embraced the legacy of these witches. Novels and stories continue to explore the dark allure of forbidden magic, portraying witches as complex figures who straddle the line between malevolent power and tragic figures. These stories often delve into the personal struggles and dark motivations of their characters, offering a nuanced view of the witch as both a source of fear and a figure of deep, emotional complexity. The fascination with dangerous witches extends to games as well, where players can encounter these enigmatic figures in a variety of forms. Whether as antagonists or allies, witches in games are often endowed with powerful abilities and dark lore, making them central figures in many fantastical narratives. The interactive nature of games allows players to explore the depths of forbidden magic in ways that are both thrilling and unsettling, offering a new perspective on these ancient legends. The enduring legacy of these witches also reflects our ongoing fascination with the supernatural and the unknown. The stories of forbidden magic tap into primal fears and desires, evoking a deep sense of awe and terror. They remind us of the limits of human understanding and the dark forces that lie just beyond the reach of our knowledge. The power of these stories lies in their ability to evoke a visceral reaction, drawing on our fear of the unknown and our curiosity about what lies beyond the boundaries of conventional reality. At the heart of this legacy is the reflection on the nature of power and its consequences. The witches who wielded forbidden magic often faced tragic ends, their stories serving as cautionary tales about the dangers of seeking too much power. Their legacies remind us of the perils that come with delving into the unknown and the potential for destruction that lies in the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. This aspect of their stories continues to resonate with audiences today, reflecting our own fears about the consequences of unchecked ambition and the dark side of human nature. The place of dangerous witches in mythology and modern culture is a testament to their enduring power and the deep impact they have had on our collective imagination. Their stories, filled with magic and menace, continue to captivate and terrify, offering a glimpse into the dark and mysterious aspects of our world. The fascination with these figures speaks to our ongoing fascination with the supernatural and the profound impact that these ancient legends have had on our understanding of power, fear, and the unknown.